yeah, just basically analyzing data, and using it to their benefit. And the other part of data science, I believe, is kind of like predicting the future, I guess, like in like, normal people's term, predicting the future.
Hey, how's it going, bro?
Fine and Austin, bro. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited for season 2. What about you?
I'm super duper excited.
Season 2 అన్నాక ఇంకా చాలా అవుతారు bro. జనాలు. So we have to reach up to the expectations.
Solid, bro. It's gonna be filled with more topics, more people. It's gonna be great.
Sounds good, bro. So before we get started into the podcast, I want to quickly reflect on a quote that I read this morning. Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, and or work around it. By Michael Jordan. Reason why I want to kind of say this quote is to inspire and motivate others during a pandemic, especially if we're able to, at least motivate one individual after watching this podcast. That's a success. And during a time of pandemic, when a lot of lives have been lost and the economy is crazy, an individual might feel that this obstacle is preventing them from like succeeding, but with courage and confidence, they should work around it. So that's something I just wanted to point out there for the audience.
No, thank you, Vishal. That's a great way to start season 2 and kind of bring back our thoughts. So I hope this reaches out to everyone. Now, coming back to our podcast, I would like to introduce our topic of the week: data science. We'll be talking about data science. Data is all around us: our personal information, transactions, coordinates, pictures, and etc. We got to be able to understand these large data sets, use algorithms to build models, use tools to visualize them, and share those findings. We have an individual today to talk about their career path in the data science and her experience. She's part of many volunteering organizations and very fond of helping children in every way. During the last 4 years, she's been interning at companies like Dell, holding positions at university clubs and other community-related groups. Her name is Medha Deeptimahanti. Welcome to season 2, Medha. How's it going?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
How are you guys holding up in the pandemic?
It's going good. I mean, yeah, it's crazy out there, but at least we found like a routine that we settled onto, and that's what keeps us going. So it's pretty good. How about yourself? How are you keeping up in the pandemic?
Kind of staying by yourself has its own struggles, I guess, but like you get your own freedom, but it's not always helpful, especially when the world's kind of locked up and you're like in your own room, just like kind of there. But kind of going through with it. Kind of miss family and family back home in Dubai and India and stuff. But yeah, I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking.
Of course.
Yeah, I think this is a great way for us to learn more about ourselves since you're living alone, I'm living alone, I'm learning more about myself. And during this podcast, right, we're spending some time talking to other people, and that kind of distracts us from feeling alone. So I think this is a great way, and this is how Michelle and I are spending our time.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful interacting with people to kind of talk about what's going on and kind of keep like that social interaction still alive, because I feel that's really important. Me being a person, I crave social interaction sometimes. I need people. I just can't not go in. I can't, like the day can go without at least interacting with like one human being, and that's just how I am. So pandemic has been extra hard just because social distancing and things like that. Definitely video calls and things like these, talking about just our life basically helps with like a lot. Trust me. So thank you guys for doing this actually.
Of course.
No, it's our pleasure.
And thank you for coming on our podcast. As Sai mentioned, our topic is about data science. So I just want to ask you, like, the first question that we have: Tell us how you define data science in layman terms. Is it about understanding how we interact with different forms of data, or piecing them together and making something out of it?
I feel like both, because data science obviously, like Sai said, data is everywhere around us, and kind of understanding what to do with that data is also really important, just because like obviously there's abundance of data. Every company produces abundance of data in the day-to-day, like client transactions, or in the day-to-day, like just what they do, right? So understanding what to do with that data is also important. And I feel that with the tools present in the current times, with many companies and stuff, i feel like um I feel like utilizing whatever data we have currently and making something out of it that is helpful for a company is something what is called like data science in like layman's terms. Obviously something that brings profits to the company, just because that's what companies businesses that's how businesses work nowadays. So kind of using data to bring profit to the company, or building a product for a company that will help them in the future, sort of. But yeah, we'll go into more depth later on, but it's kind of like utilizing data to help the company move forward in their success. That's kind of simple, like layman's terms, and like what's the meaning of data science. So
I think that's a great way of putting it, because see, like for Sai and I, we come from an IT background. So even if you use technical terms, it's,
yeah, y'all can grasp
we
it,
can
but
understand it. But like, someone that's gonna view this podcast who is a non-technical major should be able to understand. And I think that's a great way of starting off. Sai, you wanna add something?
Yeah, whenever you look up what is data science on YouTube or go to events, they start off with giving us big algorithm names and
yeah.
a bunch of tools, and don't actually start from beginning. And I think you kind of pave the path for that. So I'm excited for more explanations from you.
So, Medha, can tell the audience, like, how did you end up in this field? Like, there's so many different areas that you can get into, right? What intrigued you about data science, and how did you end up in this field?
So to kind of talk about this, I'm going to start talking about when I made the decision to go towards science and choosing like computer science as my language back in 11th grade, right? Back in high school, not being stereotypical or anything, but like Indian parents, like they kind of, like my parents were like, I mean, science is kind of like a safe option to kind of go towards, because I wasn't sure what to do. Like after 10th grade, I was barely like, I was kind of young, so I didn't know what to do with my life. Parents were like, science is a really good option, kind of go towards it. And I had an option of choosing between computer science, economics, because like I studied in DPS Dubai. So I kind of had obviously math, physics, and chemistry. And my fourth option was computer science or economics or biology, I guess. Yeah. And my parents were like, kind of, the tech industry is kind of booming right now, and your opportunities would be amazing. And obviously, I don't want to take like a double course of doing math and biology, because that's like way too much. So biology was kind of ruled out, and I couldn't by heart all those big long names even in 10th grade. So it was like biology was ruled out for me, like right then and there. And between economics and computer science, I felt like computer science, I was kind of learning a new skill, like kind of learning new programming languages and things like that. That's the reason I was like, okay, I mean, I can give it a try, I guess. I mean, there's no harm. That's the kind of mindset I went with, because I didn't know what to do, right? So in 11th, I chose like computer science as my path. I started with basic coding languages like C++ and SQL. SQL is really important towards like data, analyzing data and things like that, but we'll come to that later. So I kind of started learning those languages, and I was like, this is kind of interesting, right? It's very interesting. And fun fact, I came to Penn State. I'm currently a senior in Penn State. I came to Penn State where came in with as a computer science major, not even data science major. I entered as a computer science major. And then in my freshman year, I was just thinking, I was just like, literally, I had like 15 friends, out of which like 12 of them were computer science majors. And I'm just like, wow, this is just great. Like, what uniqueness does this course have, right? What does this major have? So I was just thinking, I was just like, I mean, like, I'm just the kind of person, I want to do something unique and something different where my value is really like seen, sort of. So like, I was just thinking, and then I kind of was debating my options. And then I met like a couple of seniors, like who through my organization and stuff in campus. And I met them, and I was just talking to them. I was just like, yeah, so what do I do? Like, I want to be in the tech industry. I just don't know like what to do, because computer science, literally every other person who I know is doing computer science. So I want to do something different, something unique. So I was talking to them, and then they, after once they graduated and stuff, they got jobs in Deloitte and things like, and other consulting firms. And I was talking to them, and they were just like, data science is really, it's like upcoming right now. And also, like, the companies that they were in, they were kind of hiring for like they were kind of hiring data scientists and things like that, and there weren't many data scientists currently present back like 4 years back. So I was like, so I guess. And one of the thing was like, when I had to convince my parents, like I had to like explain to them, like, oh, like, why am I doing data science? It was a struggle, explain, like, kind of like making my parents understand, like, why I'm going towards data science. I was like, I want to be unique. And they were like, yeah, so like, you don't have to be unique. You just do computer science. But then I was like, I was like, I feel like every other person in computer science, if I have a different, so don't get me wrong, like even data science in my university, we kind of learn, majority of the courses are computer science, but we do extra courses in artificial intelligence, in machine learning, in kind of understanding the data structures, things like that, which are kind of extra to that computer science major. And along with that, we also learn statistics, because statistics plays a very major role in data science as a subject. So I also took a lot of stat classes in my entire period. So along with computer science as a major, I do know regular coding languages like a regular computer science major. But apart from that, I know like extra stuff like machine learning and things like that, which kind of added to my skill set. And I had to explain this whole thing to not just my parents, my uncle back in like, my uncle's family. I had to explain to my entire, because like I'm the oldest, kind of oldest cousin, oldest kid from my mom's side. So like I had to explain to my entire family, because no one went to college like in our cousin. I'm the first one kind of going to college in my cousins like lot, I guess. So yeah, and then I spoke to like industry people, and they were like, yeah, data science is really good field, talk about it. And I spoke to my advisor. And then another fun fact, I'll be the second graduating class of data science in my entire Penn State's history. So like there was only one Penn State graduating class in the past, and I'll be the second one. My class will be the second one. So also I didn't really have much help, because it wasn't like computer science had so many batches before that people kind of rely on. I didn't have too many people to kind of ask like, oh, how's data science? Because there was just one class right before me, right? And I didn't really find people. And yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of spoke to people, and they were like, yeah, if you want to do something unique and something different, it's coming up. And even like many consulting firms, many tech industries are taking data scientists right now. So it was kind of like job prospects. I saw job prospects. I saw like that it's teaching me other skills apart from just coding, what computer science, apart from coding, I learned different skills as well. And yeah, that's kind of like how I kind of leewayed into data science. In my sophomore year, I kind of switched majors and came to data science, and that's where I ended up. And that's what I'm going to graduate with.
I think that's really cool, because now that you like talk about it, it just reminded me of my mentality too, because I had a similar mentality where once I was going into IT, I was like, great, I'm like gonna be like every other Indian uncle. So I want to make sure I'm doing something different. But I ended up switching from CS to CIS, Computer Information Systems, which is slightly different, but you also see like the business side of things. And then the path that I went into is cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And the way you think about it is, say, cybersecurity and data science are kind of upcoming areas, which is really cool. And the way you think about it is the ratio between the number of resources and the number of people. Not that I want to talk bad about just core programmers, but there's so much support system for programming that when you go into a company, you don't have to write code from scratch. Literally a lot of it, like you can take a template and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with data science or security, they're constantly changing. They haven't peaked yet. They haven't actually like plateaued yet. So there's always new things that are going on, and all these resources, not everybody has used them. So that's why there's not too much of a support system yet for data science and security. And that's why, you don't see as many data science majors or security majors before. Now you see them upcoming. So this is like a very, very upcoming area. And right now, you know, the job outlook looks promising. So yeah.
Yeah. And I also believe that, right now, like every company's needs are increasing just based off cybersecurity and data science. That, like, computer science, the programmers and stuff, like you mentioned, like, in a company, there is already pre-existing code that is kind of there. But as needs keep, like, like every company starts having different needs, like on the daily. And like, I feel like, and even like a lot, like so many cyber attacks, all that kind of stuff keep happening. Like new types of cyber attacks keep happening. Because I was reading the news a couple of days back, and I was just like, wow, like, I mean, So I feel like that's really important, like, for a company to kind of keep up with its competitors, along with kind of securing themselves, which is really, which is why I feel like our fields are kind of in the market. They're kind of there for a reason. So.
As you described, data science is something companies will gather and analyze it, use stats and other areas, and then use those insights to make a product out of it, right? I want to get to the meat of what data science is. Like, what does it consist as a whole? And if you can dwell on how companies are misusing the data.
Sure. So firstly, like, I'll talk about the first part of your question, like what exactly, like, the actual part meat of it. So I believe that data science has different, like segments, I guess. Part of it being like analyzing the actual data that the company already has, and kind of figuring out what kind of trends lie in that data, and kind of helping that company out. It could be through like their marketing strategy, help them out with their marketing strategies, or help them out with how the audience or how the customers are receiving the particular product, or how people believe that, and breaking futures where artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of come into. That's the other part of the kind of like field of data science. And people say that, oh yeah, artificial intelligence kind of going to take over like humans. Like, we don't need like humans to do like administration, like an admin work anymore, and things like that. But I feel like it's definitely for the benefit of the world, just because I feel like there'll be more opportunities that rise up as in when different needs come up and things like that for a company. And I kind of believe that a lot of like mid-sized companies are kind of focusing towards data analysis, kind of because they're kind of trying to meet the day-to-day needs. But I feel like higher end companies like Google and like, all these bigger companies, Google, IBM, all these high-end companies are kind of trying to, their products are doing great in the market and things like that, and they're trying to like understand what's next for them, like what's next for them in 10 years, like 10 years down the line. What's next, what is the next big product? And that's why they're using artificial intelligence, which is data science, to kind of help them understand what people need, and to kind of build that, like, and they're trying to like reduce that timeline. Like a normal human would take 10 years to build it, and using artificial intelligence and machine learning, they kind of like trying to reduce timeline to 5 years. So that's what they're trying to do, to kind of, I guess, like speed that process up. And to kind of your second question, I feel like you asked me how are they misusing the data. I feel like I actually took this one class on data security in school, in like Penn State. I learned that there were a couple, like, recently it's getting better, just because like every company is having their own set of like terms and conditions and all that kind of stuff, which people don't usually read, but sure, it's there. Like, yeah, everyone just clicks accept, sure. But I feel like couple of like years ago, like many companies weren't really clear in their terms of like conditions, or like in the terms of like what data are they, or what data of an individual are they going to use, right? Like, I think a couple of years ago, I read in one of the articles, like when in my data security class, I think Facebook, like few years ago, not like around years ago, they were like how they ask for people's like email ID and number and things like that. A couple of years ago, like, when usually you can link your Facebook account to other apps, right? You can like kind of log into other apps and things like that. Years ago, they didn't, like, like now you have to like allow this app to use the data that's on your Facebook to kind of access that. But years ago, that didn't happen. That wasn't the case. Like, you couldn't, like, you didn't, it automatically accessed everything. Like, like, for example, like, like let's give a like easy example. Like, you know, we used to play like Ludo, right? My Ludo is linked, the Ludo app is linked to Facebook. But now when I click Ludo and I click login with Facebook, it'll ask me, can it access your birthday, your all these information? You click accept. Years ago, that wasn't the case. It automatically accessed everything, and these third-party apps kind of got all your information. And even though you just want to log in with it and just using your credentials and not this extra like your name, your birthday, your age, all this like in extra baggage information, right? So that was something that I saw a couple of like it was years ago, and I feel like right now it's getting. That's just an example. It's getting better just because I feel like companies are taking more seriously after like, you know, people are like saying after people kind of reached out, like, you know, like they made a big deal out of it, out of all these issues. They made a big deal out of it, which has to be the case, because without someone allowing and that's a problem with like it's called it's more about like identity theft, like data theft, things like that. It could lead to like bigger problems if they don't ask to base. I know for us basic information, like, yeah, what will they do with my birthday, big deal. But it could be it like it's linked to a lot more things, like a lot more things like your social security, things like that, where, you know, it'll become a big deal. But for us it's just, yeah, it's your birthday, what, it's not going to make that big of a difference, but in the long run it might. It's just that like we're trying to avoid that might situation, which is why we like companies will have to like, you know, kind of ask and be like, you know, we are going to use all this information of yours, are you okay with it, kind of just to let you know that they are. So
The more you talk about it, the more I can see how your both degrees are interconnected.
yeah, they are. They really are.
Yeah. Let's take your Ludo example. When you integrate it with Facebook, Ludo's gonna ask for your email ID, your birth date, and all that, right? I'm glad they're acknowledging that Ludo's receiving your information, but it's like you can't deny it, right? You can't. You still need. They still need your information to to play the app or to even open it, right? So let's take it further. How is, let's say, Ludo's incorporating data science tools like Hadoop or whatever. How can Ludo use that information to make their product better? What would the process look like if they were to incorporate a data science team in their company?
One thing they could definitely do, I don't think they really considered that, I guess, is just that obviously if they get people's like and like where they are, like the regions they are playing from, right? Like kind of like which, like suppose I'm playing from America, they'll get like, okay, I'm playing from this country, so they'll get that kind of information. So I feel like based on that they can run like statistics, seeing like what age group of people are playing, to kind of understand like, you know, our like, because like right now I kind of got in Ludo because of like the pandemic. I have nothing to do, so I'm sure. Like usually, like if it was a regular like, you know, regular like, you know, if it was in the pandemic, I probably wouldn't be playing it, and there will probably be kids playing it, you know, like 15-year-olds or like 14-year-olds. But right now I feel like like so many people are playing, even adults. So like so I feel like they can start analyzing age groups, and based on that they can either try to improve features to make it more like kid friendly, because like kids are kind of just trying to get into technology, or like to make it more adult friendly, like, you know, people are 50 years old, 60 years old, they can't really access phones to the efficiency like we can, right? So make it more to kind of analyze their age group that they're targeting, sort of. So like they kind of improve their features based on that. And also to see like, you know, Ludo, obviously they receive like so much of like data, just because like there are people playing from all around the world, so everyone's data is kind of like coming together, and they have like different like tables, like different like, you know, table one for like 4 people playing, like there's so many tables around the world, right? So they also need like so many servers to kind of make that happen, right? So like so they can also analyze their like peak hours, like, you know, when they're like what time is their most active, busiest, you know, busiest like time. Or for example, if because obviously I think they have servers connected to different countries, like, you know, US servers, Indian, all that kind of stuff. So like they can either save up like kind of their usage of servers, if they see like, for example, in America, like the people are playing between 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. something like the most amount of people are playing from 12 to 4 p.m. So they can use all of their servers during that time, and during the low time they don't need to use all of that. So I don't think they're doing all that right now, because like the app is it's well constructed, but there's a lot more scope just looking at how it is. There's a lot, I feel there's a lot more scope. So I feel like just that's where data science comes into play, where they can based on the information of people, they can kind of analyze like I said, busiest hours and the age group of people to make it more access friendly to them and things like that. So I feel like that's something that they can do. And apart from that, like, so I know for a fact that there's this one like company, if you can say, one company that is making that makes Ludo, and like the same app has snakes and ladders and things like that, but not many people play that, right? I feel like not many people, like among like friends I know, not many people play snakes and ladders. They have like 2-3 games on that same app, but there are not many people playing that. So I feel like if they can either like bring in games that people actually play, like Monopoly is something that's very heavily played, right? I know it's a very big, like it's a much bigger like code, like it's so much more harder to like make Monopoly happen on a phone than like loot than like snakes and ladders, of course, like looking at the complications of the game and things like that. So I feel like, kind of looking through like how much people play that game would help them to kind of make their app better, I guess. So I mean, this is just going based off like what I've seen on the app particularly. So I feel like they can improve like features on the app specifically based on like how they're using it and things like that. So I feel like that's how they can improve. They have like a whole intelligence like squad just sitting there thinking of these guys. I don't think that's the case, because I think it's just like a couple of people kind of like working with the app and things like that. But if they have like a whole intelligence like data science team sitting there to kind of think of improvements, analyzing all that kind of stuff, then it'll definitely help them to like kind of go ahead in the game, I guess. Go ahead in the game, in the board game app world or whatever. But yeah.
So while you were speaking, like question, like I was just thinking of something. So you have a really good knowledge about the data and how it's being used in like various companies. Yeah. But what is something that you do to prevent these kind of things? Like, is there anything that you do on your end? Like, I know that not everybody can work as much as you can because you're in the data science major, but are there any preventions that you take, or you do anything that will prevent from like, excessive data to go out?
Like personally, like for myself, I make it a point to like read like the whole phone. That's the main important thing, because I know people, they just don't care. They just click accept, they're like, yeah, sure, like I guess it's okay. So I make it a point to like at least read, like kind of go over it to see what they're accessing, just because like I'm in that industry, and if I don't read it, then it's like a shame to like my own field of study. I feel like that way. So I feel like the main thing, I kind of read like the terms and conditions and like what they're going to access before I even like, click accept and all that kind of stuff. And apart from that, I mean, this is what like kind of was rooted into my brain by my professors, like on and on and on and on, like through every class, that just make sure like the websites you're kind of going into, and like the apps and some kind of going into are secure. Like I know there are many people just watch many like videos and things like that on like on like sites that have ads and all that kind of extra stuff. So like I kind of try to avoid doing that. I kind of either buying streaming service like directly from like the streamer or whatever, and I don't like kind of, I try to avoid doing it just because like kind of think when I think about like whatever my professor said and things, that I kind of avoid like doing things that are basically like as kind of that are basically hazardous to my data. I don't know, like something like that. I feel like, and apart from that, when I talk to my friends as well, just about this whole subject, how I'm in the field and like things like that. Like I do talk to them. I do tell them about like the improvements that are happening in the tech industry nowadays and things like that, and I kind of make sure they understand, because they don't know like what's like how's a mechanical engineer, like how's a business major going to understand like what this is, and then they'll be like, yeah, I don't give a shit, like I don't care, that's the reaction going to be. But like I try to at least kind of explain things out to them and things like that. So it's basically, I feel like it's from a personal standpoint, it's the small steps that you take in your day-to-day like internet needs, in your day-to-day like app usages, things like that kind of matter more than because you're in a company. When you start working in a company, obviously like there's more liability. You can't stream things on your work laptop and things like that. You can't like do stuff like that on your work laptop and all that kind of stuff. So there's more liability to like and like you obviously can't do your actual work in like your personal whatever laptop, all that kind of stuff. So much of liability and all that kind of stuff. But like taking small steps is definitely a start when you're starting off in your personal standpoint, I guess. But yeah, that's something I've done, I guess, but not too much. But this is what I've small steps I feel like kind of help, but in the long run. But yeah.
Coming back to the data science like core, what are any personal projects that you worked on? Have you used any like tools for like data science needs?
Yeah, sure. So, we like last semester I worked on we have a senior project. Like one of the classes that I take is a senior project, and my group, it's a group of like 5 people, and we did a project with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is MIT, and the project was basically to analyze like disaster related images, like disasters like I don't know, like tornadoes and floods and like rubble related disasters, earthquakes, all that kind of disasters. And there were like a data set of all these images, like some thousands of them, some so too many images basically. There were too many images, and basically had to initially create algorithms to kind of differentiate these images and kind of specify what image is like basically image classification algorithms in 3 words. So basically had to create image classification like classifiers to kind of first analyze the image to see if it's a flood related image or if it's an earthquake, like rubble, like not earthquake. With earthquakes you can't really analyze it. It could be like a crack on the road, might as well, but like to kind of understand like rubble on the roads and things like that. So we had to like classify that, and so we there were many different types of images, and we like the project was to kind of shortlist it down to like 3 classifiers, as in like flood, rubble, and I think a tornado or something. But yeah, so that's what we did. It was pretty interesting to kind of get the end result. Our accuracy, like in data science, accuracy is a very important term. It's very, very important, like to kind of find the accuracy of the results from the actual test data, from the actual data that we kind of test on. So train on, my bad, not test on, train on. But yeah, so accuracy was pretty good. It was, I think it was like 85, which is really good. Like the accuracy is compared to based on the amount of the images we have, 85% is a really good accuracy usually. And for college students to kind of get that accuracy is like really good, and like our MIT, like really impressive, things like that. Based on tools, like we, since all of us kind of had like prior like Python programming like kind of skills in the past, like we pretty much built classifiers using Python, which is a programming language, to kind of classify images. Pretty much that's one of the projects I did. I kind of took part in another project back in, I think, my junior year. It was like Penn State. It was for the Penn State hackathon, where we took part in the NITNI AI Alliance, which is like a AI challenge kind of. It's a competition, and our prompt was to kind of build build a product, an app, or whatever you want to that involves artificial intelligence, and that product should help Penn State in any way. It can help Penn State doing whatever. So what we did was, like, back in the day when when I came as a freshman, the most important struggle that I found was Penn State has around 1,000 clubs and organizations, and it was really hard to like kind of navigate through that. Even though it was in the even though in the environment for things, it was really hard to navigate that because there's no way in 4 hours you can go to like all 1000 clubs, and there's no way, like it's not happening. So basically we've thought there is a website on the on our student affairs website, on the student affairs, like the main portal or whatever. There's a web page, but you can't really like, you like there's one of, like you can just scroll through the entire thing and like kind of, that's like like scrolling through 1,000 websites, 1,000 like organizations names, and kind of figuring out what you want is really hard. Like that's like, people are not going to understand, especially as a freshman when you come in. So what we did was we kind of built an app. So initially we had a small questionnaire where they asked like basic questions like name, nationality, and things like that, basic information. Along with that, we also asked, we had like 100 tags, like just small words like dance or like coding or like whatever, like small like keywords. And these people could choose like, oh, I'm interested in dance, I'm interested in like keyboard or whatever, like, you know. And they chose like whatever they're interested in, and then based on that, the app that we built would kind of suggest organizations based on your keywords. And how that suggestions would take place is that we kind of got data about the organization from the organization website. So data scraping, basically scrape data off from the organization from the website, from their different kinds of pages and all the kind of like whatever's available online about the organization. We kind of did data scraping of each organization. We didn't go through all the way 1,000 because this was like a prototype phase. So I think we did like 200 just for like a prototype kind of a version. But yeah, so we kind of did data scraping and everything for each organization. And so based on the words, if the words are a match, then we would suggest that. And that's not the artificial intelligence part of it though. But so after that, what it did was eventually, as the days kept going, people like the app would kind of understand. And the fun part. So if a person is not interested in an event, or an organization or whatever, so we kind of implemented a right swipe, left swipe mechanism. So like if someone's interested in an organization, they would right swipe on it, and that would get added to a calendar that's inbuilt on the app, like on a small, like it's a calendar of whatever their events or organization meetings and all that kind of stuff. If they're not interested, they will left swipe it, and eventually the app will kind of learn. So like once suppose some dance club popped up on my screen, I left swiped it, and the app will slowly learn that, okay, this is the first time she left swipe. The app is going to suggest it again for sure, but the more number of times I keep left swiping it, the app will understand, okay, this person not really interested in like the dance, that particular organization. So eventually it'll stop kind of suggesting that organization to you. The app will become your personality sort of. So that's what we've developed. We went till there were like around 100 teams in the whole challenge, and we came to top 10 to the prototype phase of it, and we kind of built that. And yeah, so that's what those are two of the cool data science projects that I've done, that I personally was part of. But yep.
You did a lot, and this is what I want to get at today. How is data science helping day-to-day activities or without human intervention?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to your disaster example and kind of put pieces together. So when you take a problem, right, and from a data science perspective, is the first step to obviously analyze all these pictures of different disasters? Is the second step to use machine learning to train the model using an algorithm? And then the third step is bringing artificial intelligence to predict the future. Predict in a way that if you were to give this AI a picture, it's able to identify which disaster it is. Is that the end goal?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That is what and like we were going to use like Raspberry Pi to kind of when it flies, like usually like what they wanted was something to like fly over a region to kind of like when a disaster happens, because like usually like the main problem is when after a disaster occurs, for people, for like, you know, the data scientists to get images of that place and things like that, it takes way too much time for like, you know, even few seconds matter during a disaster, right? It's a very crucial phase. Few seconds also make a huge difference. So like they wanted to like analyze something that could fly over that region to kind of snap pictures or instantly go to you know, their data centers or whatever. And we tried to build a Raspberry Pi, but then COVID happened, so there was no way we could meet and all that kind of stuff. So we tried. That was our end result, to kind of build a Raspberry Pi, kind of understand, like, you know, kind of build like a balloon or something, which we didn't really get into too much. I don't know what to like speak, but then that's what the end result was, to kind of build that and at least analyze a little bit at least like flight over like our, down here, just even though there's no like disaster occurring, but at least to snap pictures and snap images to see if we can actually send it to like our database or whatever. But that couldn't happen. But I feel like that was the end result that MIT was kind of going towards. And so whatever like we built, like our classifiers, our models, that was taken up in a is going to be taught in the fall semester in a disaster imagery class or whatever next semester. And it's one of like an image identification class next semester. So hopefully like the students in that class take it over and build a Raspberry Pi to like actually analyze things. But yeah.
What we have done is probably helping generations to come through. Right now, you just built something that will be useful for a great amount of people.
I mean, I was just gonna add the fact that like it's really cool that you're able to get data, and I mean, you guys are doing it on a smaller scale versus a company.
As a much smaller scale.
Yeah, versus like an actual corporation with like hundreds of thousands of requests coming in like a day. But I think it's really cool that you guys are able to work on it while you guys are in college. What are some tools that I could use if I had no prior experience?
Initially, I feel like to kind of understand the concepts, like in a kind of like a theoretical manner, LinkedIn Learning really helped. Like even me when I was trying to like decide between like computer science and data science and like what the difference was, because I had no idea. Like when I was as a freshman, I didn't understand like what the difference was, or to be honest, like I had no idea. So I kind of like, and even this is something that even my like my peer, like my colleagues and stuff from my internships, like people who actually been in the industry and all that kind of helped me. They said that they asked me to like look through like LinkedIn Learning and any pretty much there are like a lot of videos that kind of explain the different types of like what's in data science, like different kind of sectors, and like what is artificial intelligence specifically. There are too many videos on LinkedIn Learning, which is really helpful for someone who's just starting off, like who has no idea about like if they want to even pursue the field and things like that. I feel like that's a starting step to kind of understand the theoretical part of things. And apart from that, I feel like there are like it obviously helps if you start understanding the basics of like either Python or Java, mostly Java, like Python or Java, like coding languages, kind of understand like the basics of how that works. At least like the basic, like the syntax, kind of understanding like how code works a little bit. So I feel like that's also really important. And apart from that, like writing algorithms is definitely another thing, because algorithms is like the stepping stone of a successful code. So like you're like if you can kind of understand the problem and kind of pen that down, like majority of the time I don't even write algorithms on a computer. I just write on a piece of paper. Like I just kind of like write it down, kind of it's easier for my train of thought to kind of break down the problem. So understanding how algorithms work is really important to kind of even go into coding. That's like, sure, like we'll figure out how to actually do the whole code part, but kind of understanding the algorithms is I felt like that's like a really important stepping stone for me, because half the time like I don't even remember the syntax and all that of the code, like of how coding. I don't even remember it. Like I literally just like basic. I don't even remember the syntax, but algorithms. If you kind of nail your algorithms, your code will eventually come. Like that's how it works. So algorithms kind of like the main important like meat of your entire problem, kind of like entire solution. Yeah, I feel algorithms. And another thing like that I personally like found really helpful was in school I learned the language R. It's not a hard language. It's kind of relatively easier compared to like Python and Java and all. It's relatively much easier, but that really helped me like understand like analyzing data and like I said, finding trends and that kind of stuff. So I feel like R would be helpful for me because I took like a higher level R course as well and kind of dealt like I kind of like went into in detail about how R works. But the basics are not really that hard. Like I also took a basics class, which is why I'm saying that it's not really easy. It's not really hard to learn R. So that kind of helps with data analysis part of things, not artificial intelligence algorithm, all that kind of help. But to start off with data analysis, I feel like R is kind of a good start to kind of understand how to kind of start off. And definitely LinkedIn Learning was my help like in my sophomore year. And yeah, and I know there are many websites online that kind of help with like basic like Python, like how how basic like what data structures are and things like basic like understanding of the concept, because I feel like if you don't understand the theory part, like theory of it, like what actually it does, then kind of doing the code part, it won't rely really well. So I feel like understanding the theory part of things really helps. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what I kind of have learned sort of throughout the process of my data science. Like still been like 3 years, but yeah, in college, but yeah.
I think it's amazing to see that you could do so much with data. It wasn't until my second year of that I was like understood like the basics of like data science. I mean, though I didn't pursue that area, it goes hand in hand when you're doing security, because
Does
you want to
really
you want to make sure you want to have your data secured, so you got to learn
right.
a little bit of data science here and there, and things like data loss prevention. There's also called RAID, if you've dealt with that, like RAID 0, RAID 1, 2. So data
Yeah.
striping, mirroring data in case this corporation or whatever had a data breach or something happened, they have like another site to go to, and they're able to have the data available for them. So that's like that kind of stuff goes into the more security side, but in general, like we kind of learn these things. So yeah, it was great. I appreciate you like talking about that, and we want to go into our next round.
Yeah,
The reason
sure.
why we have this round is, well, our podcast is called the Telugu Saga, and our main point is to get like Telugu people to share their story, share their experiences with a bunch of different things. But we want to also talk to them in a more personal matter, and instead of like just also professional. It's great that
Yeah.
you were able to share that this is your major and this is what you're doing. But we wanted to ask you questions that kind of relate to our culture and all that kind of stuff, right? So one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you is, what do you occasionally do that keeps you close to the Telugu culture? Example would be like movies, cooking Indian food, speaking Telugu to family, doing pujas, going to temple, cultural dances, a bunch of things. But what is something that you do?
Boys, something that I do is definitely celebrate the festivals, because I feel like it's really a very big like, was like that's what I remember like ever since I was a kid. That's what kind of strikes in my head, like, oh, Diwali, like you kind of like light the lamps and things like that. So I feel like in Holi, where you play with the colors and things like that. So I feel like that's something that was really really important for me to kind of keep in touch with the festivals of like just India. Like and like throughout my college life, I was part of I was part of an Indian club in Penn State. We were kind of in charge of like celebrating events, like all Indian events, and I felt like that was really important for me to kind of stay in touch with my roots, and that's where found majority of my friends in college, and I could relate to them. Obviously, like you can relate to Indians a lot more, to be honest, because I grew up in India and Dubai is pretty much like India. So it's just a modern India. Like that's like it's like India filled with high like skyscrapers, pretty much. So there were way too many Indians in Dubai as well. So like I kind of like grew up, so I could relate to them a lot more. And that's where I met my friends, and I had a great time like celebrating festivals. So that's one thing that strikes out to me, where that's what I do, celebrate festivals, and yeah.
When you wake up every day, what keeps you going?
Right now, nothing, because right now there's barely anything to do. But like I want to get somewhere in life. I don't want to end up a failure. Just kidding. But I want to be successful somewhere down the path. And obviously my parents, because they keep like saying, oh, did you do that? Did you do this? Did you do that? Like constant like calling every like 5 hours. But even that was also, I was kidding about that as well. But like what keeps me going is just I feel like my day-to-day activities and like friends are really important to me as well. And yeah, I mean, I just like it's just I like staying at home, so like that's my I guess. But yeah.
But I gotta say, like with the type of knowledge you have, I mean, I know we spoke outside of the podcast too, and the information that you shared on the podcast itself, you have a lot of knowledge, and you love to talk. So it's great that you have those type of qualities, because I think you're not set for like the failure, you're set for like the success that's ahead of you. So I'm sure that once you graduate, you're gonna get a really good job in the area that you like. Last rapid fire question that we have is is there someone that inspires you?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, probably my parents, because like it's very cliche. It's a very cliche answer, but like I feel like for all that they've done for me, like till now, because like they were kind of very against me coming to America itself, because coming all the way, because I'm the only daughter as well, so coming leaving them, and it's more than it's kind of like their heart like left when I flew here, sort of. I had to convince them, make sure that I will be successful and like, you know, I get a good job and like I'll kind of be somewhere in my life and things like that. So I feel like for like kind of making that sacrifice to like leave their daughter at like, I was 17, like I was very young when I mean, I guess that's when everyone starts college, but still, like that's when I was 17 and to kind of leave, it's like literally a 14-hour flight from here. So like to Dubai. So, for all that they've done and like ever since like I was a kid, like how they brought me up and things like that, and like not just that, like academically, like they are very academically oriented. They want me to like, you know, be successful in like my academics, and kind of like instilling that in me as well, because I feel like if I didn't have parents, I probably wouldn't have studied, because I don't have that kind of motivation. I probably wouldn't have that kind of motivation to even barely like touch a book, like not gonna lie. If I didn't have parents who were like constantly my academics and constantly like telling me to do things and all that kind of stuff, I probably wouldn't have. Like I know I kind of like figured that out myself. I was like, yeah, it's not happening. Like I know myself too well to like kind of, but yeah. So just the way they are, and like, and whatever success I've done to like kind of because of them. So I feel like it's a very cliched answer, but like I feel like that's where it kind of lies. And yeah, I kind of want to be kind of, it's time for me to kind of find a job and like kind of you know, reward the benefits of of me sending me here to them, sort of. So I kind of always have that in the back of my head. That's why it's really important to find a job. But yeah.
You know, it might be a cliche answer, but it's a really valid answer, because I mean, we won't be here unless it was like, you know, from our parents, right? Like they do a lot of stuff for us, and it's definitely a good answer. So,
And if they're not there to push us around, I wouldn't have accomplished what I've done. But there's a fine line if that's really what you want to do. Medha, I think this was a great conversation we had around data science. I definitely got the gist of what it contains, and from a data scientist role on how you think of data and how it's applicable in real world scenarios. And your resources, I'll definitely take a look and see if I can get started, and if I can
Yeah,
use the pandemic to my use.
yeah,
And
yes.
we'll definitely reach out if I have any questions, because
Oh yeah,
you working, yeah, with this data, it definitely might help with medical uses, any futuristic, and how I love how universities are teaming up, collaborating on to solve world's problems. So I'm really happy.
yeah, for sure.
so that's the end of our episode, and I just want to say and thank you for coming on the podcast. I know we've been planning this for for
Yeah,
a solid few weeks, but we had to take a gap. I had certain things that are going on, and so I was kind of busy too. We wanted to make sure that uh, we get back into our routine, and I'm glad that you are our first person to come on to season 2. It was great
glad.
having you.
Yeah, it was great having you. It was great talking to you as well.
Medha became the host. She's having us.
But because of the thing where like, you know, like you go to the movie theater and they're like, oh, enjoy the movie, and
You too.
like, and they just look at you and I'm like, oh shit, like, you know, I want to see a movie, but it's fine. Yeah, I kind of became that thing, but yeah.
So thank you guys for listening to our podcast. This is our season 2, podcast 1. Hope to keep you entertained with next week's podcast. So have a good day. Bye.
I see you.